All right, here we go. We're gonna do some rapid fire news. See what's going on.
Until this year, May had been a vocal member of the House, frequently
Oh, it's this
asking
guy. We
questions
saw
and
this
speaking during
yesterday.
floor
We
debates,
talked about
like
him.
this one on a bill concerning
This
transgender
fucking
procedures
weirdo.
for minors in 2024.
We as legislators have an obligation to ensure that our children have no harm done to them.
Oh yeah,
boy.
and he was
This is as
using
ironic
children
as
as a
it
shield
gets
too.
because this guy is in colossally deep trouble. Here's why.
May
yeah.
was indicted this week after investigators say they connected him to an account that was sharing child sexual abuse material through an app called Kik. They say the tip came in April 2024 when the app flagged several videos from an account called Joe Biden. April 2024 when the app flagged several videos of abuse material through an app called Kik. They say
Wait, through an app called what? Oh. Uh-oh. Wait. Hick? Jesus.
the tip came in
That's
April
pretty close to
2024
that one
when the app
website.
flagged
Jesus
several
fuck, what the
videos
hell?
from an account called Joe Biden with 4Ns69. Agents say they tracked that activity to May's home internet and cell phone, showing at least 10 videos depicting child sexual abuse that were shared from the account.
Yeah,
May now faces
like
10
yesterday.
counts of
Find the
distribution of
fucking
child
zip
sexual abuse material,
Feet
charges
first.
that carry a maximum 20 years in prison.
Investigators say he even set up a fake Facebook account to document trips out of the country where he paid for sex with underage girls.
Investigators had to subpoena phone records, track internet usage, and tie anonymous online accounts back to RJ May. According to prosecutors, the accounts in question were accessed from May's home Wi-Fi more than 400 times.
My estimate would be if he pled today on all 10 charges, he'd be looking at somewhere between 17 and a half to 20 years. If he went to trial and was convicted on all 10 charges, I think his guideline range would be roughly 24 to 30 years.
Now, here's the crazy thing. His home was searched in August. He was on the ballot 3 months later in November, where he won. And he kept going into work. Let's assume he's guilty. We don't know, of course, but if he is, that's an insane ego.
The people of District 88 elected me to do a job, and that's what I'm here to do. The people elected me to do a job, and I'll continue to do the job that I've done for the past 4 years.
This is the kind of thing that, you know, unless you have experience with this kind of thing, with reading about it, with addressing it, with fighting it, and a pretty strong stomach, this isn't the kind of thing that ordinary South Carolinians should be reading. It's that level of disturbing.
To make matters worse, it seems RJ here is a father of 2 young kids as well. Not only is the alleged crime sickening, but to blow up your family over something like this?
Yeah, that's
Come
pretty bad.
on.
He was trading videos
Yeah,
with other
he's
people
put
and
himself on
requesting
a
types
lot
of
of
videos at the same time.
Right. Most of
He's
the
got
videos,
like
in fact,
what,
were
3
describing
stars on him, 4
activity
stars
with
on him.
toddlers, boys
Right.
and girls.
Let me
Hey,
give you a
man, you're
pro
getting
tip.
real fucking
Check
close.
your significant other's phone. If they have the app Kik on there, delete it and ask them why they have this app. It has been involved in a lot of trouble just like this.
Jesus. Man, that's... Oh, man. Shady. What do we got here? Federal
Staying on
judge
top of
orders
that
Muhammad
breaking news,
Khalil's
a
release
federal judge
as
has
case
just
plays
ordered the
out.
release of Columbia University graduate and legal permanent resident Mahmoud Khalil. CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen has been following up all this and joins us with the latest. Jake, thank you very much for being with us. Tell us what happened during his court hearing today.
Well, that's right. There's been kind of a ping pong back and forth between the Justice Department and Khalil's attorneys for the last week or so after a judge in New Jersey said that Khalil last week could not be detained on a declaration from Marco Rubio that said that his remaining in the United States was a threat to national security. The judge did not explicitly order his release out of all the charges, which is what was at the center of conversation today. There are allegations by the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security that there was some misstatement of facts on his green card application years ago, which is the secondary charge, and the Department of Justice and DHS held him for over a week on those charges, saying that, yes, they understood the judge's order that they did not need to release him on one, but they were going to hold him on the other charge. The judge held a hearing today, which in in which the Department of Justice and attorneys simply had no evidence to why Khalil remaining or was a threat to the community if he were to be released, asked for additional evidence of any kind of violent protest that he had been a part of. As we know, really, there has been no explanation, not just in this case, but in many others of what actual violence these students have taken or cause for actual violence these students have said in their protests at Columbia University or other schools. The judge has ordered Mahmoud Khalil's release effective immediately once he submits a paper order to such extent. He's currently detained in Louisiana at an ICE detention center. This has been really the rallying cry, and he was the first student who was detained by the Trump administration, and really this completes a full loss by the Trump administration, who has continued to try to hold students for their pro-Palestinian or pro-Gaza stances or anti-Israel remarks during protests over the last couple of years since October 7th. And in every case, the Department of Justice has not won legal arguments as to detaining these people as their immigration proceedings have played out.
And Jake, as we understand, it could take a few hours in order for him to actually walk out. Is that really the end of all of this? Is that, this is a case that has captured so much attention, not only here in the United States, but around the world. Is this really essentially it now?
It's certainly not the end. What we actually heard from Khalil's attorneys in a different case, the attorneys said that they actually received a call or a text during today's proceedings saying that the immigration judge in Louisiana had found Khalil removable because of the national security declaration. So the Department of Homeland Security continuing to try to deport a legal permanent resident of the United States. That proceeding will continue to play out in Louisiana, but Khalil is likely to be returned to New York and New Jersey sometime soon. The Department of Justice also asked for a 1-week stay of this order so that it could appeal to a higher appeals court. The judge denied that, but the Department of Justice attorney said they're likely to appeal almost immediately. He will still be likely to be out of detention while this plays out.
Jake, thank you very much for this insight on this breaking news. We really appreciate it.
There you have it. They want to appeal. Oh, here's the guy I was talking about.
Let's make something abundantly clear to anyone who needs to see this, which apparently is a lot of people. If you have an issue with a legislator, your city councilman, your mayor, anyone like that, the appropriate thing to do is to reach out to them for a phone call to set up a meeting at one of our district offices. What is not okay is to assault anyone, whether you're a member of Congress or anybody else within our district, while you are driving to work. Ohio 7, this morning, as I was driving to work, some unhinged, deranged man decided to lay on his horn and run me off the road when he couldn't get my attention to show me a Palestinian flag. Not to mention death to Israel, death to me, that he wanted to kill me and my family. Thank God my daughter was not in my vehicle or anybody else at the time. We know exactly who you are. I have gone about my day. I have carried on my meetings, and we will not hide. And I will continue to fight against anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all other forms of hate. You have an issue? Take it to our office. You want to run me off the road? That's a different story. We know who you are, young man, and the police are going to be paying you a visit. And I hope what you did this morning is worth it to you and anyone else who plans on doing this to anybody within our district, state, or country.
There you have it. Iran FM says Israelis' attacks on nuclear facilities are grave war crimes. Huh?
Israel has launched an unprovoked aggression on Iran in a
stark what are you killing
Article
civilians?
2, Paragraph 4 of the Charter, and in bold defiance of all the principles and rules that this Council stands for.
I mean, although it's very minuscule, but
nuclear
still,
facilities have
those
also
are war
been
crimes.
targeted, despite their being under full monitoring of IAEA, and despite the fact that attacking such facilities are absolutely banned under international law. Israel attacks on nuclear facilities are grave war crimes, given also the danger of environmental and health catastrophe as the result of
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure people don't care if it's in that region for a little bit.
Iran is under a merciless act of aggression. This is crystal clear fact, must not be allowed to be twisted upside down by Israel and its backers. Israel aggression on Iran cannot and must not be justified by any legal or moral standards. Any justification for this unjust and criminal war would be tantamount to complicity. Iran is defending itself against the barbaric aggression. We are entitled, tasked, and determined to defend our territorial integrity, national sovereignty, and security with all force. This is our inherent right.
Have it. On to the next. Oh, here's another one.
We were attacked in the midst of an ongoing diplomatic process. We were supposed to meet with Americans on 15 June to craft a very promising agreement for peaceful resolution of the issues fabricated over our peaceful nuclear program.
My ass.
It was a betrayal of diplomacy and
I think he meant we were going through the right democratic process.
And UN system.
But,
Iran is under
but
a
you passed 60 days. Trump was
merciless
like,
act
no,
of
fuck
aggression. This is crystal clear fact. Must not be allowed to be twisted upside down by
I
Israel
don't even
and
know
its backers.
if the 60 days had anything
Israel
to do
aggression
with
on
it. Really.
Iran cannot and must not be justified by any legal or moral standards.
Have been? I don't know. I mean,
Any
you guys were in
justification
talks.
for this unjust and criminal
What
war
happened?
would be tantamount to complicity. Iran is defending itself against the barbaric aggression. We are entitled, tasked, and determined to defend our territorial integrity, national sovereignty, and security with all force. This is our inherent right.
Yep, there it goes. I mean, yes, as a sovereign nation, you're supposed to be able to do that, yeah.
Fordo was designed to be very hard to do damage to. It's deep underground, and the Iranians clearly put it together recognizing that they might suffer the kind of attack that's happening now, and that they wanted to create a facility that would be so difficult to attack that it might survive a military assault. The Fordo facility is currently the one that's getting the most attention because Israel has already hit and done major damage to all of the other facilities that are located closer to the surface. The Fordo facility is deep underground, inside a mountain, very difficult to pinpoint exactly where you would need to do a strike. But that's where the Iranians are undertaking enrichment activities. Enrichment of uranium takes place in a gaseous form. It's called uranium hexafluoride. The real danger of the material that's at Fordo is the hexafluoride part. It's a dangerous toxin. It immediately turns into acid with the humidity in the air, and it's very toxic to humans. There's a possibility that could spread throughout the facility and perhaps harm people who are inside. If it were to get out of the mountain, though, it would be very small amounts if there was to be some kind of an attack, because the mountain would fall in on the facility. Within Iran, the facilities associated with their enrichment program are not likely to have very much radioactivity simply because uranium is not very radioactive itself. The place that I would be most worried about from a radioactive release is the operating power plant, nuclear power plant at Bushehr, that uses Russian fuel. It will have spent fuel there, which is extremely radioactive. It will also have fuel in the reactors. You know, the areas of impact would depend upon prevailing winds at the time. It would depend on the character of the accident. That facility is probably the one place that could create a real radiological hazard. Israel seems to be well aware of the radiological hazard that could be posed by a strike on the Bushehr operating reactor or its spent fuel pools. And hopefully they understand that that would significantly reduce any kind of public support, global support they might have for the activities they've already undertaken in Iran.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't care. If they need a bomb, I would be fine with it. Make sure you're fucking doing it properly. Well, we already spent money on that fucking thing, right? Might as well put it to fucking use.
A federal appeals court is allowing President Trump to keep control of the National Guard in Los Angeles. That decision overturned the lower court ruling, which found Trump acted illegally when deploying troops against California Governor Gavin Newsom's wishes. On Thursday, the three-judge panel said the Trump administration did have enough evidence to seize control of the Guard, citing violent acts by protesters. It also found if the administration failed to notify the governor before federalizing those guards, as required by law, Newsom had no power to veto Trump's order.
Also, he didn't even condemn right? He didn't, as soon as the shit happened, he didn't even say anything. Motherfucker just allowed shit to happen. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit. He shouldn't be a governor.
And one thing we're learning about the big beautiful bill is that Senate Republicans are proposing selling off more than 200 million acres of public land.
An area that could be up for sale, parts of the Kern River Valley. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Micah Thomas with what that land could be turned into and why not everyone is happy about it. Micah?
That's right, Michael Rochelle. This proposal to sell public land in western states is part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Utah Senator Mike Lee is spearheading
the Big Beautiful Bill also had like some gun control legislation that was gonna
The current bill text is included in the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee's legislation and includes 11 western states in the public land sell-offs. According to the Wilderness Society in California, over 16 million acres would be up for sale, and this includes
basically
land
the
in
Big
the
Beautiful
Kern River
Bill
Valley.
has like a
The
little bit
Senate
of
Energy
everything.
and Natural Resources Committee says the proposal could generate between $5 to $10 billion over the next 9 years. Advocates say public lands and water should be off limits.
There is a bill text in there that has eligible up to 300 million acres that could be sold. These are public lands and waters. These are for the public to access. This includes land that is U.S. Forest Service as well as BLM. And in looking at the map of eligible places, that could be sold to a extraction or the highest investor, whatever that means and whoever that is. It is places like Lake Isabella where people go from the Bakersfield area.
Although this is a Senate bill, experts say those opposed to the bill should reach out to Congressman Vince Fong with their concerns. Reporting in studio, Micah Thomas, Eyewitness News.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Murcia with Eyewitness News Bakersfield Now on YouTube. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel where we have tons of great content to choose from.
That would be nice. People could
While
buy
you're
land.
Here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button.
To build
on.
Oh, we got the exiled crown prince here, who says it's the best opportunity to topple the Iranian regime.
جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود
has
رسیده
reached
و در
its
حال
end
سقوط
and
است.
is the process of collapsing.
خامنه‌ای همچون موشی
Khamenei,
هراسان
like a
زیر
frightened
زمین
rat,
پنهان
has
شده.
gone into hiding underground. He said rat. That's funny.
پنهان شده و کنترل اوضاع را از دست داده است. آنچه آغاز شده برگشت ناپذیر است. آینده روشن است و ما با هم از این پیچ تند تاریخ عبور خواهیم کرد. در این روزهای دشوار دل من با همه شهروندان بی‌دفاعی است که آسیب دیدند و قربانی جنگ‌طلبی و توهمات خامنه‌ای شدند. من سالها کوشیدم تا میهنمان گرفتار آتش جنگ نشود. پایان جمهوری اسلامی پایان جنگ 46 ساله آن با ملت ایران است. دستگاه سرکوب رژیم در حال فروپاشی است. تنها یک خیزش همگانی لازم است تا این کابوس برای همیشه پایان یابد. اکنون زمان ایستادن است. زمان بازپسگیری ایران.
Pahlavi, 64, fled Iran in his teens after his late father, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was forced from power by nationwide protests against his own repressive monarchy. No, oppression, basically. They oppressed him. He has accused the Islamists who have held the reins of power in Tehran since his father's overthrow of holding back his country.
My proposition in terms of what can happen.
Oh shit, he can speak English too.
And we've seen to some extent
pretty
some
well
level
too.
of success. Let's say under the first administration of President Trump, that maximum pressure did pay some dividends. It isolated the regime more. It curtailed their means to be able to finance and fuel their war machine. Unfortunately, that was reversed under the Biden administration, where over $200 billion worth of oil sale that Iran should not have, the regime should not have had access to, only helped them to further expand and support their proxies, whether it's the Houthis or it is Hezbollah or Hamas. And this is not a coincidence that as a result of that,
I wonder if we can just put all the terrorists. The truth is.
And we begin this Sunday morning on day 3 of Israel's war with Iran, and Iranian retaliation fired overnight. 10 Israeli civilians killed last night as Iran targeted neighborhoods. And Israel continues its massacre on military infrastructure in Iran and Iran's ability to make a nuclear bomb. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the operation to remove the Iranian threat to Israel will last, quote, as many days as it takes. Earlier, an Israeli official saying Israel had planned a 2-week operation to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. The Israeli attack beginning before dawn on Friday, when Israel launched waves of strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities and its leadership, taking out the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and 3 other major generals, along with 9+ scientists working on Iran's primary nuclear sites throughout the country. Israel saying 3 out of 4 of Iran's nuclear facilities have been diminished or destroyed, as Israel struck so far 250 targets and 720 components. A major nuclear facility still exists in Iran underground with enriched uranium. Iran is firing back and has picked up the retaliation overnight and the weekend. First, sending 200 missiles into Israel, killing 3 people on Saturday and then another 10 last night. The Israeli defense minister said yesterday Tehran will burn if it continues to fire missiles at Israel. Here's Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday.
We paved the way to Tehran, and our pilots over the skies of Tehran will deal blows to the Ayatollah regime that they cannot even imagine. And I can tell you this, we have indications that senior leaders in Iran are already packing their bags. They sense what's coming. I'll tell you what would have come if we hadn't acted. We had information that this unscrupulous regime was planning to give the nuclear weapons that they would develop to their terrorist proxies. That's nuclear terrorism on steroids. That would threaten the entire world.
President Trump has been warning Iran to make a deal on its nuclear ambitions and reiterating that Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb now for several months. Back on April 12th, the president gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. Israel attacked Iran on day 61, which was this past Friday. And as far back as March of this year, with President Trump in office for the second time just a month and a half, the president told me directly he sent a letter to the Ayatollah Khomeini trying to achieve a peaceful outcome.
This is the one we saw last time, too.
The people of Iran are great people, but they had a tough regime, and they'd meet and they'd be shot in the streets. I mean, it was a tough deal. But I would rather negotiate a deal. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with me, but we can make a deal that would be just as good as if you won militarily. But the time is happening now. The time is coming up. Something's going to happen one way or the other. I hope that Iran, and I've written them a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing.
You wrote a letter to the Khomeini?
Yes.
When did you send the letter?
Yesterday.
And you said you better negotiate, or we want you to negotiate?
I didn't say you better. I said I hope you're going to negotiate, because it's going to be a lot better for Iran. And I think they want to get that letter. The other alternative is we have to do something, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
That was on March 9th. Joining me now from an undisclosed location is the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi. Your Highness, thank you so much for being here today.
I wanted to watch this because
what is your reaction to this conflict?
With Fox.
Well, yeah, the first thing I need to say here is that my heart goes out to the victims, civilian victims, both in Iran and in Israel, who are unfortunately casualties of this conflict. But one thing is very clear, and I mentioned that last time we spoke, that this is not the Iranian people's war. It is Ali Khamenei's war, and he's solely and ultimately responsible for having brought this to this stage. What angers me further is that he's using my compatriots as a human shield while he's currently hiding in some underground tunnel like a rat. And we have had reports that senior members and officials have already had their families fleeing the country to foreign destinations, perhaps even including some of his own.
You heard Benjamin Netanyahu say that there are leaders that are packing their bags and leaving. Do you believe that this Iranian regime can be toppled?
Absolutely. It's just a matter of time. I believe that for 44 years. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. But now we have a tremendous opportunity. Last time we spoke, I mentioned that the regime is at its weakest. As of last 3 days, the regime is 10 times weaker than it was 2 weeks ago. So at this stage, I think the Iranian people obviously realize that the playing field has been more equalized for them to give them finally an opportunity to rise and get rid of this regime. Because we always believe that the ultimate solution to the problem is for this regime to no longer be there. Not at the hand of foreign troops or countries, but at the hand of the Iranian people themselves. The Iranian people are the boots on the ground that we need. What they need, however, is solidarity from the free world to once and for all get rid of the problem, help Iranians overcome this regime, and put an end to all the threats that this regime has been the root cause of for decades now in the region and beyond.
Do you think the rest of the world, the free world, will heed that call and come to the aid of the Iranian people? What would you like to see?
What I like to see is for the world to know that the only way you can have less threats for the economic stability of the world, have less casualties of innocent victims here and there, have an end to all these threats, including the nuclear threat, is to eliminate this regime. The sooner they come to this conclusion, the sooner we'll be rid of the problem and we can all breathe a sigh of relief. The Iranian people are willing to do their part. In fact, they've done this so many times with no help whatsoever. But they're willing to risk life and limb in order to finally overcome. Last night, people on the streets were angry, chanting death to the dictator yet again. They know who the enemy is. The regime has been giving them slogans of death to America and death to Israel for the past 4 decades. And Iranians have been responding, they lie to us when they say it's America. Our enemy is right here, meaning the regime. And fortunately, I see that more and more people, public opinion, media, and foreign governments are finally making a clear distinction between the people of Iran and the regime. And that's key. That tells you right there that the solution is in front of your eyes. The Iranian people are your solution, not negotiating with a regime that cannot be trusted. Case in point, the latest report of the IAEA. They are not to be trusted. And I've said that so many times already.
And you've said also that the Iranian leadership is at its weakest. How would you assess, based on your own knowledge of this, how would you assess the nuclear capabilities today?
Well, it certainly has been tremendously set back. But the whole point here is that how much more time do you want the regime to catch a second breath and come back online? How many times are we going to yet again throw them a lifeline? How many times are we going to allow them, as they were going down in their ability to spend money on their proxies or for repression machineries at home, to get access to more funding that they shouldn't have had? I think this is the perfect time. The G7 are meeting right now in Canada. Why not prescribe the IRGC, which is the element that has been the root cause of repression at home and terrorism abroad, as part of the kind of pressure that the world can bring? And at the same time have the parallel track, you and I have spoken about this many times already, a parallel process of maximum support. Some people have already been talking about internet interruptions in Iran that the regime has always tried to use as a tactic to make people have more difficulties communicating. Starlink and Elon Musk are trying to do their part. We need much more of that. This is how, in fact, they can help the Iranian people have a better chance to succeed, and their success will be in your own interest at the end of the day.
Your Highness, Iran is apparently reaching out to several countries right now, trying to get a message to Israel to stop and put in some kind of a ceasefire. According to Israeli officials, Iranian leaders are sending messages to Israel through Italy, Azerbaijan, Cyprus. They may be using Qatar and Oman to relay signals to the United States. What is your message to those countries?
I think, again, if the fundamental argument is that the source and the root
they don't
cause
want to get
of
hit
all
by
the
the
problems
beepers.
and all the threats is directly linked to the survivability or the continued survival of this regime this far, the quickest way to eliminate all these problems is to put an end to this regime. If out of desperation they're begging for yet again another life insurance, I think, they had plenty of opportunity to come clean, and they haven't. And the minute they get a chance, they will go back to their old tricks. They're only trying to buy time. This is a pattern that has been many, many times observed by this regime. Every time their back is to the wall, they try to come across as, okay, now we are willing to consider it. But the minute they get a chance, they go back to their old ways, which is why I'm saying it is not a reliable formula. You will always be in anxiety of how far can we rely on this, how far the negotiation could succeed if they were to resume. And at the end of the day, you still have the same problem in place, because let's say, for the sake of argument, and we talked about this before already,
they're literally
let's
like
say there is a deal on the nuclear issue. What about terrorism? What about funding of the proxies? What about radicalization? What about all the other aspects that this regime has been involved with? What about their funding of radical groups in Europe and in the United States on university campuses, fomenting all this kind of anti-Semitic rhetoric and whatever we have seen? This is Ali Khamenei's regime yet again. The Iranian people, on the other hand, want to have cordial relationship with our neighbors, whether it's the Israelis or the Saudis or the rest of the Persian Gulf in our neighborhood, because unlike this regime that survive on warmongering and celebrate martyrdom, we want to celebrate peace and brotherhood and life. And that's the difference. Invest on the Iranian people. After 46 years of trying the other way around, give the Iranian people this time a chance to put an end to all the problems. To free themselves, which is my mission in life, to it, but we need the world to understand that which side of history will they be standing on this time.
Your Highness, you wanted to give the people a message in Farsi.
Thank you so much, Beria. همیهنان عزیز، فرصت غنیمت هست که در حال حاضر با عقب نشینی نظام و تضعیف خیلی بیشتر از هر زمانی یک فرصت استثنایی هست که بالاخره کار رو به دست خودتون بگیرید و نبرد نهایی رو پیگیری بکنید. هرچی بیشتر متحد باشید، هرچی بیشتر فعال باشید، هرچی بیشتر در خیابان‌ها باشید، مطمئن باشید که ریزش‌ها هم بیشتر به سمت شما انجام خواهد شد.
Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for being here, and we will be watching your work. Thank you, sir.
There you have it. What do we got here? Appeals court allows Trump to keep control of California National Guard.
So a big win for President Trump and his National Guard troops. Today, a federal appeals court ruled that he can keep control of the National Guard in Los Angeles because he likely acted within his authority when he called up the Marines and the National Guard against the wishes of California during the city's immigration protests. Governor Gavin Newsom vowing, though, to still press forward with California's challenge to what he calls President Trump's authoritarian use of U.S. military soldiers. All of this coming as the Los Angeles Dodgers say that they denied entry to dozens of federal agents near the stadium yesterday.
Yeah, right
Protesters
here. And then
met
they got
agents near
caught
the
lying,
parking lot and
apparently.
say they are going to continue to protest throughout the city until the officers leave the area.
I took the opportunity to treat them the same way they treat us, to scare them and show them that we're not afraid. You know, we're going to stand up for our people, and we're here to support one another.
Joining me now are Melissa Dunn, who's there in L.A. She has been on the ground since the very beginning. So, Melissa, let's talk about how the court came to this decision to support Trump.
Yes, Kira. So first and foremost, the federal court, it is a 3-judge panel. They came to this decision saying that Trump likely did act within authority. And he did so. Why? Because he presented key evidence. So it was all about that evidence that they essentially decided that the Trump administration had the right to essentially grab control of the California National Guard and choose to deploy them. Now, there was so much back and forth here in California by Governor Newsom and the federal government that it finally ended up in this 9th Circuit Appeals Court. But look, clearly, because of this evidence, that is why the federal court says that they were allowing now the California National Guard to stay deployed here. So they cited essentially specific acts by protesters, including that first weekend of protests that we had here in Los Angeles County. That weekend, that was protests that broke out in the city of Compton and the city of Paramount. This is where local law enforcement and federal officials say protesters threw concrete chunks, bottles of liquid, and other objects at officers. They also damaged some vans, federal buildings. So that evidence, essentially, Kira, is what backed up the federal court's decision.
Well, ICE is now denying that agents were ever at Dodger Stadium. So do we actually know what really went down yesterday and why all the protesters remain there?
Yes, Kira. So let me give you a play-by-play of what happened here. It was a lot of back and forth between the federal government pointing fingers to local officials and to people on the ground. Simply put, by yesterday morning to the afternoon, we started to see videos online on social media of federal agents near the parking lot area and the gates of Dodger Stadium. Look, they had a game last night, so attention was already on them. That video started circulating, so protesters decided to show up. The protesters get there and they're saying, we see ICE agents. We see federal guys, we see people with masks on. What is going on? Well, essentially, when, all the news crews reached out, we reached out for a request. We reached out to the Dodgers. The Dodgers came out saying that they had denied ICE agents access. But essentially, what the Department of Homeland Security then said was that it was actually CBP agents, it was Custom Borders Patrol agents that were simply parked nearby and were not involved in any immigration enforcement raids. They were just going and setting up outside. But that
I was hoping he'd get shot
by
one of those
because,
fucking.
Of course, here you have to keep in mind that we have been seeing all of
one
these
of those rubber
raids ongoing really within the last several weeks here in Los Angeles.
Or get peppered by some fucking pepper rubber balls.
Melissa Dunn in LA for us. Thanks, Melissa.
Hey man, you were in the crowd of retards. What's going on here? This dine and dash quickly turned deadly. Uh-oh.
An officer was called to the AAA diner for a dine and dash complaint. While there, the officer saw a handful of individuals accused of leaving the diner without paying their bill.
What did you get? You said you gave him cash? I gave him $50 already. The bill was $140. I already gave him my money. And I blessed him. And I told him I could give him the cash.
So, okay, the bill is $140, not $50, so you're gonna have to give him $90 more.
I told him I can give him the money.
We're gonna have to bring you back over there.
Officers were willing to bring Jakai back to the diner and pay the full tab, $140, without him or his friends getting charged.
You guys are all young. You got better shit to do than go get fingerprinted and stuff. You had him done yet?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't want to get in trouble, he could still pay the whole tab, but yeah, he has to come with the police. They got to check him.
Just. You got tons of fucking.
Yeah. Police wanted to pat Jakai down for everyone's safety. That's when he started getting uncomfortable.
Can you call my mom real quick? I'm just asking, like, can you call my mom?
No, what? You just need. What do you mean? Can I just call my mom? What the fuck? Oh, that's suspicious.
I didn't steal, sir. I want to call my mom real quick. I just want to call.
I want to call my mom.
I understand.
Good or bad. Okay, I think this is actually
sir, I just want to call my mom.
I gotta pat you down here for my own safety right now, because I don't know if you got weapons on you.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I don't care. You want to call your mom, and I gotta pat you down, motherfucker.
Your mom has nothing to do with my safety right now. You know what I mean? So I gotta pat you down real quick. Put your bag down.
Yeah, just hold on. Don't worry. You can call in a second. Don't worry. Just let me pat you down.
Up against the car. Spread your feet for me, all right?
I think he's trying to. No, dude, I think he's. I think he's got something in his crotch.
In your pockets.
Yeah, I think he's got some. He's got something in. He's got something in his
don't worry, I'm gonna take care
waistband.
of your pockets. All right, just
Yeah,
just
no,
hang up on me,
he's got
all right?
something in his.
So you're
He's
fine.
fucking with his waistband. Yeah, yeah. He kept fucking with his waistband and shit.
Hey, I heard a gunshot. Shots fired. Shots fired. Move! You're gonna get shot. Fucking move! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move!
Oh, did he get shot? Because he ran. Let me guess, he pulled out his gun.
I think he shot himself in his leg.
No, he shot him.
Here's
He
the
shot
17-year-old
himself
who
trying to
died
pull out his
after
gun.
running from
Oh, what
police
a
before then
fucking
shooting
retard.
himself in the leg.
Police say the
He
firearm
shot
stolen
himself
out
in
of
the
South
leg while
Windsor
trying
was
to pull
found
out
next
his
to him.
gat.
What I
Oh
do
my
know
god.
is that's not who he was. I know that
What
he was a
a
loving
fucking
person,
idiot.
caring, and that this is going to take a toll on a lot of people.
So stupid. Why did he do that? Dude, you should have. You probably would have been fine well, actually no. He probably was. That's probably an illegal gun he had on him. That's probably why they were gonna be like, no, that's shady. Yeah, he was probably gonna get fucked up. Right there.
So we just
That's
heard the
probably why
first
he
siren
ran.
that Tel Aviv has had in more than the past 24 hours. I don't know if you can
But yeah,
still
he was
hear.
fucking with
there
the
are emergency
he did.
vehicles now.
I knew
circulating here.
immediately. I knew immediately. He kept fucking with his fucking belt and shit. And like, dude, he probably has something down there.
According to police here in Tel Aviv, there has been no direct impacts that have been seen so far from that missile salvo, though it sounds as though the police have seen fragments from interceptions that have fallen. It does sound as though the bulk of the missiles were fired at the northern and central parts of Israel. Now, we understand that 2 people have been seriously wounded in the northern Israeli city of Haifa, and that there were direct impacts, according to emergency services, on about 6 different parts of the middle and north of the country. Now, all of this follows as the Israelis are continuing their attacks against targets in Iran. Now, they say that they've been taking out a lot of missile launcher sites. And we heard this from the
here
Israelis
comes the
yesterday.
drone.
The Israeli military said that they had taken out about
Uh-oh.
200 missile launchers. They said that that's about 2/3 of the
there's
total
the launcher.
that the Iranians have been used to fire these ballistic missiles at Israel. Now, that stands to reason as we're starting to seeing a decrease in the number of projectiles inside of each salvo. But all of this is going on as European diplomats are heading to Geneva to meet with their counterpart from Iran, the foreign minister. There, they're going to try to see if there's any room left to negotiate an end to Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Here. Oh, what we got from Tony? Oh shit! Whoops.
And here is Mester.
Oh! Oh no! Why is it muted?
Make your shop special. The eye-catching effect let others take a fancy to your shop at a glance.
And here is Mester of Germany. His first attempt in the.
Anyways, take a look at our special logo to make your shop special. The eye-catching.
All right, there you have it. And then, yeah, and that's about it for the fast and quick news. Give a like, subscribe, and I'll put all those links in the YouTube as well, or in the description. Thanks for watching.